like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, okay.
Your roles in the film.
I'm Nicole Betancourt. I'm sure you know me by now and everything about me. And this is Rose, who's more behind the scenes.
Is this microphone? Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm Rose Kowalski, producer. I always introduce myself at the beginning. But
So we start off, Nicole, obviously this is a deeply personal film for you. What was the process like of sharing your story via this film?
Well, it has different stages. I think for the act of filming it gave me kind of a reason to live in a way when I was really sick. It was my way of, my positive obsession, as Octavia Butler would say. So it gave me something to, a process to learn from my pain, basically, and to learn how to surrender to it. Now it feels a little different. You know, sometimes it's hard to watch the film, but it feels to me now as if it's something I just want to offer other people, so that people feel that they are enough, that they're not alone in their experience, and that not just in illness, but in how we are in like really hard times where we're losing so much and things feel out of control, and that there can be a process to grieve and to feel that will, you know, like you only grieve what you love. So it's through our experience of accepting how we're feeling that we can move forward and also have wonder and joy, and those two things can exist simultaneously.
Absolutely, and of course it spans quite a long period in your life. At what point did you know it was time to complete the film and tell that story?
Oh, sorry, can you hear me okay? Was there a point?
when I told her it was finished.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, because I'd be still working on it if it wasn't for Rose, but thank you very much. But, you know, you saw some of the earliest footage I shot when I was 3.5. So, and I had made a film about my father who died of AIDS in the 90s. So it was definitely, film had already become like, it's like I was always working on it. Like in a way, I feel like I'm still working on the next one, you know. So it's like I'm always, also I feel sometimes like I'm living in a movie, and then I make a movie about, you know, your life, and then you're dreaming, which feels like another movie, and I don't know. So it's all layers of movies for me. I don't really even know if I have a specific answer. Do you want to?
There was definitely a moment late in the editing stage when it was, because it's such a collage of a film, and it was very important for Nicole that there were a lot of, all of these threads were in there. Some of the threads we took out to simplify some of the storylines, but there was definitely a moment when all the threads came together and the rhythm then came together and it became a film. And that was the moment when it was kind of like, okay, we don't need to keep generating new ideas. And because it's quite a process, because there's so much happens in an edit anyway on any film. You can turn a scene from a comedy to a tragedy in a moment, once you're in an editing suite, even, you know, on even a more traditionally filmed film. So there was definitely a moment when we came to it, it was like, okay, now this is clear, this is working, we have the film, so let's now close it and really concentrate on the post-production and polishing the mix and everything. So, yeah.
Have you both worked together on other films, or is this your first project you've worked together on?
No, this was the first project. Nicole, we were introduced to each other through a colleague, and it was just a real delight to be able to, it was a gift to be able to come on board the project, and now I don't want to work with anybody else.
The first of many. You're watching it right now.
Yeah, no, I do have some other projects, but yeah, it's just been brilliant. So yeah, it was a real gift, so thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Alongside your own personal story, there's a lot of focus on climate change and nature. Why was that very important for you to make that a focal point of the film alongside your own story?
I think it was through illness and through my dreams that I actually started feeling this synergy with what was happening on the planet, and it became a gift in a way, where I felt a sense of belonging. So there's an intense sense of isolation. I don't know how many of you experienced just being trapped in bed for months and years, and I feel it gave me a sense of, it was comforting in a way, I guess. I mean, not comforting like it made everything better, but I felt at first terrified, and then somehow fell in love with the earth in a new way, and also started to realize that everything's alive, and that it's just miraculous to even be here at all. It became a serious gift. And so the story of what's happening in nature affects all of us, and I think a lot of us walk around like we're just kind of detached and not aware, or it feels too much or too intense or too overwhelming. And the film and my experience and my connection to nature that kept growing became sort of a gift. And yeah, I don't know if that.
Oh, so there's a question for both of you. You talked about there the impact and talking about those things, but what do you want audiences to get out of that, both from what you've just discussed there, but sharing your own personal story?
I would say that I hope that people feel witnessed in a way by watching the film. I find that sometimes when I see films about experiences that are familiar to me, I feel seen by the film. So I hope that people feel seen. I hope that they feel encouraged to come together to express how they feel about what's happening on the planet. I think there's not a lot of places to grieve or to express these emotions, and that how we feel about the world and how we connect to the world actually shapes the world. It's our longing to control nature. It's our desire to sort of to separate, define, and fix our symptoms, our problems. That, of course, that's good. If you break your leg, you want someone to fix your leg. But there's some larger perspective that's at stake where perhaps a slight shift even in the direction of seeing how interconnected everything is, and how there's a real power into things that I thought were weak, ideas about surrender, about gratitude, stillness, that I felt were somehow powerless when I was growing up in New York City. And now I see them as very powerful, and also taking a lot of courage to just listen and to receive.
And same to you, Rose. What do you think sort of the impact of the film? What do you think audiences can get out of it?
Well, it's quite a traumatic story, and when I talk about it with other people, but I always try to emphasize this sort of set feeling of hope, because I feel that without any kind of hope is when I personally also kind of would get down or find it difficult to go on. And so that kind of optimism and hope and being aware of what's around us, and the other thing that I really, really enjoy in the film is at the end with Adrienne Marie Brown. She says, like the starlings, is really just focus on, you see patterns, so if there are patterns you see that you like, focus on those patterns and grow them, and be in right relationship with the 4 or 5 starlings, birds around you, and repeat that pattern, and then that will move forward. So it's try to concentrate on things that you can do and close by, and repeat that. That's that, rather than like the huge problem. So that's kind of what I feel like would like you to get out of it.
And I was absolutely going to say, at the end of the film, it does feel like there's a tone of joy and optimism in that, even though you share many tough and tender moments throughout. Is that the message that you ultimately wanted to give at the end of the film? Because it's something that kind of resonated for me when the film was closing.
I don't want to mislead you. Things really are messed up. And there is a lot of loss. But that doesn't mean it's like even more of a call to value what we have around us, to value the abundance in nature, the complexity and diversity in the natural world and in the human world, which is all obviously the same world. So to me, I would say that I want people to feel this balance. Like there is a way to live in this liminal beach-like space between this acknowledgement and feeling and expressing and honoring what we're losing, and at the same time that how we see the future we want to create for ourselves actually creates that future. That you have to have an idea first, you have to have a thought or a vision first before everything that was the whole city of Manhattan was someone's idea. People had ideas, and that's how it was created. So imagine what we could do with our ideas and our thoughts. And so there's a lot of, and I would say hope, maybe it's just you have to really in your heart know that things can change and know that we can co-create change. That's what's uplifting, I say. I wouldn't say someone's going to come and save us, because it's really us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's open it up to the audience and see if there's any questions that anyone would like to ask.
Yes?
Hello? Yeah. But first of all, it was lovely and really personally touching up. You did so much. I wanted to ask you about the process of the form of the documentary. Obviously, you filmed it over such a long period, and you intersect a lot of your personal film with art pieces or art set designs. How did you go around that process and choose what you needed to do at that time?
It was made very slowly over 7 years, from the decision of starting to tell the story, intentionally, I should say. At least 7, maybe more. And but this idea of weaving I wanted to show the intersection of things, the relationship in between, and systems theory, right? That there's this, it's the dynamic in between all the different items on the map, right? So it was important to me to have different styles of filmmaking all mixed up into one. That they're, or not mixed up, but I would say woven together to show some influenced experimental type films. That there was this verite footage, there was some interviews, there was voiceover, some more poetic stuff, there was some graphics explaining things. There was just a lot of different elements woven together, and that be able to do that, so it showed that sort of weaving of just life in general, I guess. So there was a stylistic decision in terms of form and function there. And in terms of how the process, I don't have as much energy as most people, so I would have to work in very small stints, and that meant lying in bed a lot and thinking about the movie. So I would sort of edit in my head, and then I would just execute it very quickly, and some of the scenes came out of my dreams. I was how am I going to connect this to that? Because here I am trying to connect all these different things, and it's how am I going to connect this to that? And I would ask myself, and then I would dream about it, and then I would wake up and I'd be in the middle of the night, just writing it down, recording my voice to just remember the idea. And so I hope that answers a little bit. What else?
Yeah, if I can add something.
Yes, please.
And the other thing that was very important, I remember, was how do you communicate some of these very dry scientific ideas or emotions or states of being that words fail you? So a lot of it was very much some of those metaphorical scenes were about how do we get those sort of ideas onto the screen and make them enjoyable to watch.
I think that part of it too is that I hadn't filmed my worst moments of illness, and I was how am I going to show that? And it became an opportunity, actually. The problem in the film for me became what was probably one of the better things about it. Yeah.
Any other questions?
You mentioned that there were some threads that had to get taken out because it was sort of getting too overloaded with ideas. I was just wondering if you would mind sharing some of those threads that had to be taken out.
Happy to bore you with my ideas. I've done. I'm a sustainability leadership fellow, and they trained us in systems theory. So there was a lot about Donella Meadows, who wrote the book Limits to Growth, and the way we sort of look at our planet's capacity and ideas like exponential growth in our economic system, and so I dipped into that, and she was actually really an interesting person. I would look her up, Donella Meadows. She also, ultimately towards the end of her life, talked a lot about how do we live with like where you are now, like a radical acceptance of where you are, and then where you want to be, like solve hunger in the world. Like there's no more hunger, right? Like this is where you want to be if you're working for a nonprofit trying to feed people, right? But most nonprofits are like, we just want to make it a little bit better. And she's like, no, you have to go for like what you really want and be comfortable in that tension in between those two things. And that's that tension of where we are now and where we want to be. And that sort of, there were a lot of ideas like this and some other expert type characters in the film that took you out of the story a little bit. There was also a lot more of the ups and downs of our experiences with illness, and we just had to make it a little simpler so that you could kind of stick with it and move forward with more momentum.
I think there was a question here, wasn't there?
Thank you very much for making that film. It's very, very moving and very personal. Thank you for that. I'd like to ask you now, obviously, are you getting strength you need to continue, and is your daughter doing all right? And will you be able, you say you're going to do more projects, so obviously that itself is amazing. You're subjecting yourself to go on, and will they be the same sort of films?
Thank you for that. Well, how's my daughter? It's up and down still. It's not like, but the lows aren't as low, and I'm able to be here, which is amazing. I also can't really talk about how I am without talking about what's happening in the world a little bit. I just heard last week that an area the size of Italy in the Amazon was intentionally burned in 2024. So it's hard to, Pilar is in college and she's thriving in many ways, and Blue just graduated high school, so we're moving forward, and I'm roping my mom into my next short film that I'm making because I love working with my mom, and who, by the way, wrote the first book ever written about women film in the film industry in the 70s, yeah. And what was the other question? I'm sorry. It was.
Will you make the same films moving on?
Oh yeah. So I'm working on, taking a film out into the world is sort of like you're still parenting the project. So we're in that process right now, and it's really like a grassroots effort. So by the way, go review us on Letterboxd or like get the word out because it's really grassroots. So that's a process that I'm still involved in a lot, and I'm making a short film with my mom inspired by Indra's Net, which is a Buddhist story about how the world is a giant web, and at every intersection of the threads in the web is a jewel, and every jewel reflects every other jewel. So it's kind of like what Adrian was saying, this idea that everything you do could be happening somewhere else too, and it all matters, I guess, in a profound way. So the profound meaning in seemingly insignificant acts is the thing that I'm very focused on right now.
Any questions?
Full disclosure, this is Rose's brother and Rose's mother who are here, and we honor our mother. Stand up for a second, because this is like, yes. So grateful to be in their home country, and
I forgot my question. It was a bit similar actually to the last two in a way, just about obviously amazing film to start with. I mean, so powerful and so uplifting, really positive. I guess you explored a lot about healing within the film, and I suppose it's how is that an evolving process to discovering what healing is about, I guess. And you alluded to that just a moment ago in terms of this Buddhist element. So yeah, really, I guess that's the question.
That's a very good question. I'm still, sometimes I find our language in English, or maybe, I don't know, a lot of Western languages are kind of limiting the idea of being healed, wellness, and being cured. So I'm not cured, but I'm healed. I don't know. I don't really, sure I can like clarify the distinction. I feel that, there's a process to kind of knowing yourself and exploring what it means to be alive that never ends. And I feel like our bodies are incredible doorways to that process. And for me, that's what it's been. And it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean it doesn't suck. It doesn't mean we don't want to lose people we love. But there is always an opportunity for some kind of adventure, I guess. I don't know what to say, even if it's a horrible one. So the healing process is ongoing for me, always. I still have symptoms, and I still have to go through that whole movie over again of surrender, visioning, choosing, aligning. Like, your body actually, when you imagine something, it doesn't know the difference between that and reality. So your story does literally change your body. So that's but it's not your fault if you're not well. So it's very important to understand that, both of those things are true.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Let's have another round of applause.